Okay, this is lesson 72 for Algebra 1. We're going to be solving quadratic equations by completing the square. So this is another method this is the hardest method, and you can use this method instead of doing GCF or anything. This is just a different method. And you have to know how to do this method now, and you'll need it for geometry next year, and you'll need to know how to do it real well, because geometry will do some big numbers. And for Algebra 2 we do it again, and it's a hard method. And remember the quadratic formula. Remember how I said x is equal to negative b? Remember that whole thing? Plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac. Remember that? Did I teach you that, or did your... Raise your hand if another teacher taught you that. Okay, so we're going to look at that next. That's a really important formula that is derived from completing the square. Okay, we're not going to look at how it's derived, but you're going to see just an example of how it's derived. But this is an important way to solve your problems, okay? Solve quadratic problems. These are the steps. Write those down if you're in the video. And in class, we're going to move on right now. Here we go. Okay, so watch carefully, okay? So before we start, we have A, B, and C here. We need to complete the square. So the first thing we want to do is move all the C's over to the opposite side. So this is a C. We need to make sure all the C's are over here. So the opposite of add 24 is subtract 24. Okay, that's the first step. Now we're going to draw a line. All right, x squared. Just watch right now, okay? No writing. And I'm going to leave a little space here where 24 minus 24 disappears and we have negative 24. That's the first step here. Then we're going to take the middle term here, negative 14, and we're going to do a side problem. We're going to do step 2, which is take negative 14 and divide it by 2 and square it. Negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. Negative 7 squared is 49, right? So we're going to put 49 here, add 49 here, and also add 49 on the right-hand side. Okay? When we do that, this whole left-hand side, now we could factor as x minus 7. The way I figured that out is I just took x, took the square root of x, brought it down here, and then I took negative 14, divide that by 2, and you put negative 7 here, and then we square it, okay? Which is equal to, when we do negative 24 plus 49 is, we put 9 minus 4 is 5, 4 minus 2 is 25, right? Now we're going to take a square root of both sides. The square is by itself. What's the opposite of squaring, everyone? Square root. Okay, so we got x minus 7 is equal to, because the square and square root cancel out, square root of 25 is positive and negative 5, right? Now we're going to make two equations. X minus 7 is equal to positive 5, right? And then x minus 7 is equal to negative 5, right? Because we have two answers. Now we're going to solve each of these. Add 7 on both sides. So x is equal to 12. That's your first answer. And then over here we're going to add 7 on both sides. So x is equal to 2. Okay, and those are your two answers. Okay, it seems like a lot of work. That problem you could have done Xbox, by the way. Okay, but this is a different method you have to know how to do. Okay, it's called complete the square. Okay, so watch me. I'm going to talk about it one more time. I'm going to start it from the beginning. First thing I'm going to do is move all the constants to the opposite side. So I'm subtracting 24. You all watching at the screen. Bring down the rest of the problem. Okay. Then I'm going to do a side problem. I'm going to take b and do a side problem. I'm going to divide it by 2. So what's negative 14 divided by 2? Negative 7. Then we're going to square it. What's negative 7 squared? 49. Okay, I'm going to add 49 to both sides. So I'm going to put 49 there. And I do it to the opposite side too. Okay, and then the left side is a perfect square trinomial. So we take square root of x squared, which is x. Half of negative 14 is negative 7 squared is equal to, and then we just simplify the right side. Then there's a square by itself on the left-hand side, so we do the opposite, which is square root. Oh, sorry. Went a little too fast there. Sorry about that. So we bring x minus 7 down. The square and square root cancel out. Square root of 25 is positive negative 5. And we're going to, since there's two answers, we have to make two equations. So x minus 7 equals to positive 5, and x minus 7 equals negative 5. Okay? Solve each of these. Add 7 on both sides in the first equation. X is equal to 12. And then on the second equation, x, we're going to add 7 on both sides. X is equal to 2. Okay? That's how you do number 1. Watch me do number 2 one more time. Different problem. Ready? Here we go. Okay, first thing I want to do is take all the constants, this negative 57, and bring it to the opposite side. There's already constants on the opposite side, so we're going to have to just combine those. So we're going to add 57 to both sides. Not a big deal. Okay, so we bring the rest of the problem down. N squared plus 10n. I'm going to leave a little space here. I'm not going to write in there. Bring down the equal sign. Negative 7 plus 57 is positive 50. Okay. Then I'm going to take the middle term, b. b is 10. I'm going to do a side problem. Okay. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 squared is 25. So I'm going to add 25 on both sides. I'm going to add 25 here and also here. So I'm going to bring this down. Now this left side is a perfect square trinomial, so I'm going to take square root of n squared, which is n, and the square half of 10, or b, is 5. So I'm going to put n plus 5 here, square it, is equal to 50 plus 25 is 75. Oh. Okay, now I'm going to take a square root of both sides. So we got n plus 5, right, because this cancels out with the squared, is equal to the square root of 75. Now 75 is like saying, isn't 75 like saying 25 times 3? And isn't like 25 saying 5 times 5 times 3, right? Would you all agree with me? So this is all, 75 is like saying 5 times 5 times 3. So I need to simplify before I bring it down. The 5's come out, only 1 makes it out. So we got 5 rad 3. And remember, it's plus or minus 5 rad 3. Now we have two answers here. We have n plus 5 is equal to positive 5 rad 3. And we have n plus 5 is equal to negative 5 rad 3. Okay? We're going to subtract 5 here on both sides. So we got n is equal to negative 5 plus 5 rad 3. That's one answer. And then the second answer, we're going to subtract 5 on both sides, which the answer is going to be n is equal to negative 5 minus 5 rad 3. Box our answers, and we're done. Okay? The second one, we had to do that simplifying with a radical sign, but it's the same steps, okay? Any questions? This is kind of a long process, but when you do it repetitively, you'll remember how to do it and it'll be easy, okay? This is something you have to know for geometry, you have to know for Algebra 2, and you're all going to take those classes, so it's kind of like you have to know it, okay? So the sooner you get it, the better off you're going to be. All right, any questions? Okay, so let's have, today let's have 1s till the 2s about number 1. And you're in new seats now, right? So, going on here, number 3, okay? So write down the original problem for me on number 3. We're going to do this one together. We're doing this one together. Okay, so number 3, we got a squared minus 6a minus 7 is equal to 0. Okay, I need to look at my constants. Are there any c's, constants, up there on the left-hand side? Yes or no? What's c equal to on number 3. Negative 7. Is it on the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the equation? No, it's not. It's on the left-hand side. Isn't it on the left-hand side? Is that what you meant? Left-hand side? Do you see it's on the left? Okay. So C is negative 7. We don't want that there, so we're going to add 7. That's the first step. We want to always move all the constants to the right. That's the goal on the first step always, okay? So we have a squared minus 6a is equal to 7. Okay? Next step. What's b equal to? Negative 6. So we're going to do a side problem. Let's put negative 6 on the side here, please. Okay. What's negative 6 divided by 2? Nope. Negative 3. What's negative 3 squared? Positive 9. Good. Okay, so we're going to add 9 here. And also on the opposite side right here. You doing your work here? Can't stare at me while you do your work. You have to stare at the screen or your paper. Okay. Now the left-hand side is a perfect squared trinomial. We could assume that. So what you do is you take, look at a squared. We take, what's the square root of a squared? A. So we put a here. And then what's the square, or what's half of negative 6? No. Negative 3. So we put negative 3 here. It's really important if it's positive or negative. We're going to put a square sign here. The right side, let's simplify. What's 7 plus 9? 16. Good. Okay. Step 4. Let's all read step 4 on the board. What does it say? Okay, good. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. We're all taking the square root of both sides here. We got square root of both sides. What happens to the square and square root signs on the left? They get canceled out. They disappear, leaving just a minus 3. What's the square root of 16 from yesterday?
4.
Not just 4.
Plus or negative 4.
Plus or minus 4. Good. So since we have two answers, we have to write two equations. A minus 3 equals positive 4, and a minus 3 equals negative 4. Okay? First one, we're going to add 3 to both sides. So a is equal to what? What's 4 plus 3? 7. That's our first answer. Next one, we're going to add 3 to both sides. Answer again, yes? A is equal to what? Good, negative 1. Excellent. Okay, so that is how you do number 3. Okay? Was that hard? No, it just takes time to learn it. Let's do the next one together again. Turn to your neighbor now. Tell him what you would do first. Okay, what am I doing first, everyone? Add 57, right? We want to move all those constants to the right. We want to move this over. So we're going to add 57 to both sides. So we're going to take, so we got m squared plus 6m is equal to, good, okay. Next, tell your neighbor what you would do next. Okay, what's b equal to? Okay, 6 divided by 2 is? 3 squared is? 9. Where am I going to put the 9? What am I going to do with that 9? Okay, we're going to put in the C position, put add 9 here, and where else do I want to add 9? Good, underneath the 55, because we're going to do whatever we do to one side, we do to both sides. Okay? What's the left side turn into now? What's the square root of m squared? M. Right. What's half of 6?
3.
Positive or negative 3?
Positive.
Positive 3. Do you see how this is different from number 3? Look at number 3. We had negative 6. Now we have a positive 6, right? Okay, what's 55 plus 9?
64.
64. Next step, tell your neighbor what you would do next. Okay, what am I going to do, everyone? Square root both sides, right? Okay, what happens to my square and square root? They what? They cancel out, right? So I'm going to write m plus 3. And then what's the square root of 64, everyone? Positive and negative 8, right? So that means we have two answers. Now we're going to write m plus 3 equals positive 8. And m plus 3 equals negative 8. Okay, what should I do to solve the first equation? Subtract 3 from both sides. Good. So what's 8 minus 3? 5. Good. Okay. So that's the first answer. Second answer, we subtract 3 on both sides. What is negative 8 minus 3? Negative 11. Good. Now, again, we could have done Xbox from the beginning, but you have to know this process. Okay? This process always works, okay? Xbox doesn't always work. Sometimes you have answers like remember number 2, the example I showed in number 2? We could never use Xbox for that. This process always works. All right, we ran out of time for today's lesson, so that's the end of this lesson.